So welcome everyone to Liberi Tutti International, the international spin-off of our Italian web podcast, Liberi Tutti. It's always me, Davide, and Mirko from Jerusalem, this time speaking hopefully in English, so I hope it's going to be everything pretty clear. We will try to do our best. So first of all, let me say hi to Mirko. So, ciao Mirko.
Hi Dave, here in Jerusalem it is going all well. Everything is closed as usual, but I recently moved to the center of the city, Jaffa Street. The nightclubs, the 2-3 nightclubs I have nearby will hopefully open soon, and I will go to check that everything, is under control.
Sounds super fine.
Social distancing is respected, and this is it.
Okay, great. So this time is not, let's say, Italy, our focus, but it's the world. So why just stay inside Italy? Well, we can go throughout the whole world. So Mirko, who is our first international guest?
Okay, Dave, we start our international journey with Liberi Tutti International, diving into the social problems of India, from the wealth disparity to child labor, passing through other known issues such as castism, propagation of pseudoscience, and privatization. And with us, as you can see, if you are on YouTube, we have Sayak Adhikari, born in Calcutta, West Bengal, India. Sayak is currently completing his master's in quantum molecular dynamics at Fritz Haber Center in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Shai bears his bachelor's in physics in St. Xavier's College in Calcutta. Public, an applause please for Shai. Shai, how are you?
I'm good. I'm great. I hope you guys are doing great too. It's been a hard time for one of us, but still grateful because I think every one of us has a roof, getting the scholarship and getting food on the table.
Sure.
Hard times compared to other people who are still not in a great place like us.
It's true, it's true.
That's true.
Okay, Sayak, let's dive into the problems of India, and we start from the knownest worldwide, which is a huge wealth disparity between the people in India. As usual, in Liberi Tutti, I'll start with some numbers. So according to a report of Oxfam, a confederation of 20 independent charitable organizations, the top 10% of Indian populations holds the 77% of the total national wealth. 73% of the wealth generated in 2017 went to the richest 1% of the population, while 67 millions of Indians, who comprise the poorest half of the population, saw only a 1% increase in their wealth. So 77% increase against 1% increase. What are the reasons behind this large accumulation of total wealth among so few Indians, and how could your country mitigate this fact?
So one of the major problems is unemployment. So the laws regarding to unemployment, they're mostly favor the big corporations on the industry houses. And this allows them to be exploit the workers, not just on the basis of wages, but also give basis of benefits and everything. And they can, whenever they seem fit, they can just lay off these workers at any time they want. And it's also because the unemployment rate also depends on the government policies, economic policies. Now recently, because the government right now, which is central government in India, which has been there in power from 2014, it's a right-wing government. Supposedly they're supposed to be good with economic, the capitalist leaning party. Their ideology is mostly capitalistic, but even with respect to that, the India suffered the highest unemployment rate from 2018 to till now, and it has gone much worse because of the corona. Now it's also because of the poor infrastructure of the labor laws, and there needs to be a huge reform in the labor laws, because the laborers, they need to have like a proper representative who can like voice their problems, voice their, like what do they want.
And this is not met now.
No, because the politicians, you need to lobby them. And when you say you want to lobby them, it's not always by words. It's, sometimes money.
Sure.
And then there's, of course, the tax evasion thing. The tax evasion and regressive tax. The problem with tax evasion is that big houses, big corporates are like, they find loopholes not to give taxes. So the government, like, they don't get enough taxes. So what do I mean with the government? Not the politicians. Government, what do I mean by that is that government means the general public. They don't get the taxes they're supposed to get from the corporate houses, and those taxes are supposed to go to the public. Can get the basic rights they're supposed to get, like health, education and stuff. So when the resources itself are very less, and keep in mind that India has a very large population, so it's also very hard to give the resources to every one of them.
Of course, it is the second most populated country in the world. It will be the first, according to the trend, quite soon.
Yeah, we will overcome China very much soon. And what do I mean with the regressive tax? The personal income tax is very much high in India. I mean, individually people, they pay taxes a lot. So that hits the poor people, or maybe the lower middle class, a much more does the higher classes people. They always find a way to evade the tax. So that also brings like disparity among the accumulation of the wealth. So these are most of the things, and there are also other things like inheritance, because there was the caste system in India, which I hope is there in the questionnaire. That also has led to consequences of inheritance, wealth inheritance. Is there with the high caste people, and high caste people were always the rich people. They were like, there were redistribution of wealth, but it was also flawed itself.
I see. But are there any solutions to this problem? I know this is just like a $1 million question, but still, can you think of something?
Yeah, there's a solution. You just taxes. That's the first thing. I'm not saying increase taxes. I'm just saying take the general tax from everyone properly. I'm not saying to catch some rich guy and make him poor. That it's the same thing. I'm just saying take the percentage of tax you take from the common people, and also tax that guy. Those classes of people.
Yeah, sure.
In your opinion, the redistribution of wealth in this case would benefit the poorest half of the population.
Yeah, because poorest half of the people, they spend most of their wealth. Sometimes when someone in the family gets sick, they sometimes have to sell their property at the health benefits. So in a way, if rich people, they pay their taxes properly, the money gets to the government, and then the government can at least spend those taxes on the health resources, so that the poor people won't have to pay for the taxes, and they that wealth to themselves. It's one of the examples. There are many other examples, of course.
Sure.
No, but I mean, this sounds like a first step. I mean, a very reasonable first step. Okay, so yeah, thanks. That kind of pictures the situation. Let's now talk about another, I would say, well-known issues like the division of the population in quite static castes. Castism came along at least in the 1000 before Christ, and then has a huge impact in today's India. Even if independent India's constitution in 1950 banned discrimination on the basis of castes.
Exactly.
can you explain what is the status of this problem nowadays? And again, if you have any solutions or, I don't know, suggestions.
Sure. I'll also explain my experiences.
Sure.
Sure, go on.
So let me say something brief about the caste system. So it started from what we say as the Rig Veda time. From 1500 BC, it was from the 1500 BC to 1000 BC. So there, at the beginning, it wasn't like caste, it was just two division. Now, like there are important terms in Arya. It comes from the word Aryans, the Das Varna. So it wasn't based on occupations. It was more like race stuff, race based. It's not. It's not still distinctively clear. Why is it? Because like still doing my master's in quantum physics, not history. But as far as I know, but it's important to say what I don't know because.
Sure.
And then towards the end of the period after Rig Veda, there came the Atharveda period, where the new classes emerged. What do I mean by new classes? At the beginning they had Brahmins, the priests, the teachers, and everything. Then they came the Kshatriyas, the warriors, and they had some of them. And then at the end, that came the Shudras, the Anta. So by then it was occupation based, and so this went on for centuries, and until the British came, the situation got worse, because when the British came to our country, they saw that Indian people were very proud of their culture. So they realized to rule these people, we need to break their spine, like metamorphically. So they, as they always do, divide and rule.
Sure.
Just
the Romans invented it.
Yeah. So not just they divided us by our caste, but they also divided among the religions, because you also know India is home to not just Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, Buddhism.
Sure.
And many others, actually, which I even don't know. I mean, it's a huge country with huge culture and religion. So that's the caste thing, the caste in a very short time. So now the problem with the caste is, of course, it's still there. Nowadays in cities, it's still there. It's very subtle. You need to be an Indian to understand it. Sometimes universities, like I was in the college, it never happened to me. Maybe because I'm from a higher caste family, so I never maybe realized it. I was that privileged to realize it, but later on, as I grew up, I saw it. Sometimes the teachers asking the student's name, like full name. You can understand what caste a person is by their full name. Not always, but most of the time. So they used to ask for the full name,
and the grade was influenced by that, of course.
What?
Grade.
Not the grades. Like I wouldn't be so specific, but I mean, you can see the teacher's curiosity, what the student's background is.
Okay.
I mean, no matter what the reason is, you shouldn't care what the student's background is. Your job is to teach and, educate the mass. And yeah, and then it's like, in India, we have the culture of arranged marriages, right? You advertise that you have a son or a daughter who wants to get married and get a suitable bride. So there they say, if like the advertisement, Indians are also very racist. You also have to keep that in mind.
Okay.
At the most of the ads, they say like need a suitable partner which is tall, fair. Now, what do I mean by fair? Like white skin, like because in India, there are Indian people who are very fair. They need a person with white skin, fair, and also of high caste. So that's where you can see that the caste thing is still there. It's still instilled in the Indian mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe it's not an official thing, but people still think in that way.
Yeah,
and behave
exactly.
also in that way.
Do you know how severe is still the problem of arranged marriages? I mean, on 100 marriages, how many of them would you expect to be arranged?
Look, the thing is that it's not about that. It's not that it's arranged. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, some people actually go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say exactly it's a problem. But in villages, sometimes it's severe. In villages, out of cities, where it's not, they're not developed in every other sense of in every other sense. So sometimes even the families. The kill there are some, this is something called honor killings.
Mm-hmm.
And so the girl runs away with a guy who is of another caste. The families kill both of them. It's that severe.
Wow, it
so
is severe.
The caste problem, yeah, it's still there. It's people get there. I mean, in universities there were suicides of students because they were discriminated based on their caste. They couldn't handle it. I mean, the bullying not by their peers, by the teachers.
Of course, it's even worse.
So yeah, these are just a speck of those problems. So now, in order to solve this problem, I would say we need to make a safe space for people who are marrying within from other caste. We need to give we need to make them feel that they can do it, because sometimes societal acceptance is also a big step. And then we need to discourage people to to have that curiosity to find out what the other person belongs from.
This looks like a work to be done in several generations. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, of course, it's not. It's never going to be that easy.
Do you think
it's going away? Okay. I do believe it's going away, but it's like V tends to 0. Velocity tends to 0.
Yeah. Do you think education could play a role in this situation? I mean, you said that the teachers used to, get curious about backgrounds of the students. So do you think education could play a role here?
It starts from there. It starts from there. And no, we do have in our courses, like in schools, we are taught the first fundamental rules in our constitution, not to discriminate anyone by their skin color, by their caste, by their religion, by even gender. Anything. We are not. The Constitution of India I believe is one of the best. It's a very good document we have in India. It's very, how do I say it?
Fair.
Fair, inclusive.
Exactly. It's very fair. It's very fair. So, I mean, it says that even it protects the people who are religious. I mean, it says that you cannot interrupt or interfere with religion affairs until to some extent. You need to be told everyone has the right to follow any religion or do any religion or not do anything at all.
No, I mean, that's true. I mean, maybe you could start also from, young people that are somehow experiencing the world maybe in a better way with respect to elder generations. Maybe it could start from the young people and saying we are all equal. There are no castes at all. It's just like a mind thing from generations, and we have to change that maybe.
Education is I was coming actually to that point. So but education is also one of the main reason, and also the education that we get from our parents, because this caste is, this religion, all these things, they usually come from the parents also. They say never marry. I'm not saying my parents, but I've known few of my Hindu friends, even Muslim friends, that they are told by their parents, if you have a girlfriend, try not to have it from another religion, or if you have a boyfriend, don't have it from another religion. It's not just Hindu, from Hindu family. It can be from Muslim family or Christian family, like that.
Wow.
And then there's the issue of 2 points.
Go.
1 point. the vote bank politics, the politics associated with casteism. So what politicians do, they exploit this thing, like, I'm from this caste, so you should support me because you're all from this caste. So that creates a division again. I mean, the Constitution of India clearly states that you can't do that, but still they do it. So yeah, that's one of the reasons also.
I see. Okay, Shai, thanks again for this very clear statement of the problem and the long and the slow solutions for it. So let's dive to another one, which is unfortunately typical of emerging countries such as India, which is child labor. So according to the ILO, which stands for International Labour Organization, there are around 12.9 million Indian children engaged in work between the ages of 7 and 17 years old. Naturally, this takes away the possibility of education for them, and therefore the hope of a well-paid job, condemning them in the so-called cycle of poverty. So you do not get educated, you have to work for a low salary, and you never get to have a higher one. So still, according to the ILO, many child laborers in India are involved in the textile factories or in brick-making factories and quarries. Other child laborers work selling cigarettes on the street for the tobacco industry. Some other are also used in industries such as steel extraction, gem polishing, and carpet manufacturing. A staggering number of girls are victims of child trafficking in India, whether through traditional bondage or through organized crime. And the worst of all, baby prostitution, that in India involves 1.2 million children. I ask you why, and what should the government do to stop child labor and to increase the literacy rate, which is what those children are privated by?
So yes, the child labor issue in India is a very big issue. I mean, it's also a very prevalent one. And so, I mean, let's look at the fundamental idea about it. Now, why does it become so easy? Because the basic idea is that they're children. I mean, you can exploit them by giving low wages or no wages at all, or not giving any benefits to them, because you know they're children. They might be scared of you if they say anything, right? So that's the basic idea. And the two main issue that drives this whole thing about child labor is, first of all, is poverty. Of course, it right off the bat it makes sense. The second thing is social norm. Now I'll tell you this because it's related to caste system. I don't think you will find more children who are doing work outside. They're not usually from higher castes. They're maximum from the lower caste families. So what happens is that these parents of the lower caste families, they're not able to afford them education. About education, maybe not even like 2 meals a day. So they're forced to like send their children to work. And that's how it accelerates it all the time. Now, because of the economic policies of the country, richer people are getting richer, poorer are getting poorer. It's like a vicious cycle all the time. So I mean, in India, like there's something which makes me very angry, which when I see on the roads, not all the time, but when I see, is that the beggars or the rag pickers or the people who are at the lowest of the lowest, they do have children. Like if you think about it, like if I was poor, I wouldn't have children.
Of course.
I really think about it, like practically, because if I bring a child into this world, I will provide with everything that child needs. But they do it with the idea that the child will be an asset to them. Like they are poor, so they will make that child work when it reaches 6 or 7 years old. It's that bad. So what happens, they have a lot of kids, and it, like, for you it may not make sense, but for them, they make them beg at a very young age,
Mm-hmm.
sell them to illegal, as you said, trafficking,
Sure.
or or illegal organ transplant. Even it gets much worse. I mean, I don't really like the Slumdog Millionaire movie because
I was going to quote that because that's the
Yeah.
only, I would say, experience of
exactly.
that I had.
But
I mean, but
to some extent, it is true. Children sometimes are kidnapped, or maybe they are, especially poor. The children from poor background, they're kidnapped or like even given up by their parents so that they can be trafficked, or even they're intentionally broken physically so that they can get to the conscience, like like getting sympathy while begging. So this whole thing becomes a driving factor in the child labor issue. Now one of the driving factors. Now what the government can do is to not just to make better laws. There are laws to it, of course, to it, but to enforce it. Like, just because you made the laws doesn't mean it's going to work. You need to enforce it. So that's, I think, where the Indian government is totally lacking. I mean, if you ask me what's the situation before 15 years back or something, I think the situation has increased a lot better, but still we have a long way to go. And like, again, create enough resources for so what happens, like now we were talking about poorest of the poor, but what about if you talk about the lower income or middle class families? Sometimes they don't have even have the means to, like, food, healthcare, and they don't have the right enough resources to send their children to school. So what the government does is at least like pay for the education. So one part is covered at least, so that will at least encourage the parents to send their children to school, thinking, okay, I'm sending them to school, but my money is still with me. Like,
Sure.
extra cost to it.
And then maybe they will have the opportunity to get a higher
Exactly.
job.
Exactly. So at least, it's like an investment. If they get studied, they can get, maybe after 12 or 10 years, they can get a average job, and then, like, can live their life, they can survive.
And provide for their family.
Yeah, exactly. And like India, the last thing I want to say, the Indian government has tried to do it. As I said, anything to do in India takes time because of this population. I think one of the I won't say complete success. One of the successful programs they introduced was the midday meal scheme. Apart from giving free education, they also said they would give one part meal, one part of the day. So I mean, if that is covered, then the parents of the lower middle class or from the poor family, they will be very much happy to send their kid, because they will get free food. I mean, for us, it sounds very like not a necessity, but for them sometimes it's the world for them.
Of course.
Free
One less meal to provide.
Yeah. So those are the measures that Indian government took, and I think it's going to get better, but we still should have the temperament to fix it.
Yeah, sure. That's again a starting point, and you just have to do better and better to provide the people the necessary. Let's now talk about different problem, maybe not so related to society, but still actually it's more related about economics, and it's about the privatization of health and education, because in 1991 a transition between a mixed economical system to a more privatized started due to an economic crisis and because of some pressure from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. So I think that now you're kind of still in this process of privatization. So can you summarize the state and how does it work actually? I mean, just because here in Italy, when you talk about privatized health, it's something very scary. I mean, also in this month during the pandemic situation, there's been a lot of talk about if health should be public or privatized. So, I mean, it's always an actual, let's say, argument.
Yeah. So I have some left-leaning views. So I would totally agree that healthcare and education should
Okay,
never.
we like that. I mean,
no problem.
we are pro left-wing views.
Go
So.
on
and because the underlying principle is that when you make something privatized, there's someone who's always profiting.
Okay. But there is one logic, I would say, question: how can you do something public if you don't have the money? I mean, if you can provide it to everyone, as you said, poverty is a great problem in India. Okay, so how can you provide a public service if you don't have the resources to do that?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like when you privatize healthcare and education, you give it to a private body, right?
Okay.
And they don't have the right. They won't have the mindset to actually do it for the people.
Okay. Okay. I see.
Selflessly. The government might do it because at the end of the day, because the government is the people. I mean, that's the ideal principle, of course. But
at least they need the votes of everyone.
Yeah. So at least the private body, they will always strive to make profit. Like I'm saying, like for example, when you privatized healthcare, you can see in the States, the insurance companies are very hard to convince. The insurance companies, they have a monopoly. I mean, if you compare to Israel, for example, the insurance that I pay here, it's $1,000 a year, and it's good. It's not bad, but in America,
and even less, and it's
in America, if you want a good insurance, I think it's $1,000 a month. So India, I mean, the healthcare infrastructure is already bad. It's not good, and it's anyway, it's going to a privatized situation, and the problem with that, we are already seeing it. They have a monopoly over all of the things. They're charging like ridiculous amount of money.
Do you know which is the situation now with the main hospitals in the main cities, and also for the education?
Wait a second. You're asking me for healthcare or education?
Healthcare and education. So let's go on with healthcare. I mean, how is the situation with the hospitals? Are they public or mostly public, mostly private?
The public ones are, I wouldn't say that good. It's not good. Like even I wouldn't go there.
Okay. This is
like it's the blunt truth. Like I wouldn't go there.
A hard statement, but I mean.
Yeah, I mean.
This is it.
It's the situation. Some government, rarely some government hospitals are good, but I have the privilege, I have the resources. That's why I can go. And it's not just about the hospitals, the insurances, life insurances or the healthcare insurances. They were good. People used to trust it. Like we used to have this famous government company, LIC. So I forgot the full form, but there was a day in the earlier days where everyone used to have one. It was common, and it was government. It was very good. People used to trust it. But right now, it's the whole company is privatized. Nobody trusts it. It's not working well at all.
Okay.
It's not just healthcare. Even the banks are falling off. So this bank called Punjab National Bank, it completely crashed because it was doing wrong dealings with the wrong businessmen. They gave out illegal loans and it completely crashed. People who had savings, some of them, even when they heard the news that the banks completely crashed, they had heart attacks. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, in India, the privatization is much worse. I mean, it's the whole thing about privatization will go into a much worse situation. And regarding the education part, I mean, in India, when you compare it to other countries, it's of course cheap. But still, I mean, when you compare it to the Indian people, it's not cheap at all. Uh, so the education, because education is a right,
Mm-hmm.
there should be no business in it at the beginning.
Because something that someone may say to you is the fact that at least privatization encourage efficiency. So as you told, when the bank you mentioned was public, it basically crashed. When a privatized bank or health or education, even if it has access, it gives access to less people, it is more efficient in general. What would you answer to that?
You mean if it has public shareholder, it's more efficient, or private?
No, when it is private, it is more efficient in general.
Well, it's not. It's not in practical. It's not efficient at all. There's always some wrongdoing stuff. I mean,
when they are privatized.
Yeah, it's like I believe that the free market is good, but uses the free market if the players are all cheating.
I see.
I think it also depends on how you compute efficiency. I mean, if you compute on on the how can I say, how many people actually are you helping, how many people get the possibility to access that service, with the private you get a very, very low efficiency. So I mean, it's just but again, I mean, I think that after this episode, you're going to become the Prime Minister of India at least. But do you have any solution? Yeah, exactly. Do you have any solution or suggestion? I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, I think we all agree that you can't do all private, but it's also, I think, an utopia to get all public, because the situation is very hard to solve. So what is your point of view of this on this contest?
It's actually very hard to say, because I think the government funding should be there, of course, but I think the institutions should be made semi-autonomous. I wouldn't say completely autonomous, but also not completely controlled by the government, but like there should be a balance, giving them freedom and giving them not so much freedom in some areas. Because if you give them completely freedom, there will be issues where they won't be accountable to. And there should be some site of overseeing the whole operations of how these institutions are working, of course, but not so much. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Somewhere in between. And one of the main problem in India is also corruption. It's like it differs from that is a human factor. So I mean, that is something we need to it's gonna go away maybe by education, or maybe by stricter policing laws. Like policing laws, I mean by like checking that corruption doesn't happen.
Sure, of course. Okay, let's leave this sector. Shai, we have one more problem to ask you, and then you're free to go. So let's dive now into a problem which is likely less known worldwide, but not less dangerous, which is the propagation of pseudoscience. So religion, mythical culture is being highly propagated, even in India's scientific institutions. And I'll tell you some examples. Some Hindu rationalists claim that technologies such as airplanes, internet, and even stem cells were present in India thousands of years ago. During last year's Indian Science Congress, Indian science minister said incorrectly that physicist Stephen Hawking stated that the Vedas, Indian ancient religious texts, include theories superior to Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity. And also, anti-scientific propaganda is also practically founded. So there are lots of foundings being provided to study of the properties of Panchagavya, a mixture of cow, urine, and dung.
Oh my God, yeah.
And India's higher education minister dismissed Charles Darwin evolution theory from the school and college curricula, as he thinks it is a falsified theory and stuff. What is the root cause of this problem, which gives also
may I say that you have
loss?
You have quite a problem, actually. I mean, I thought that here in Italy the problem was pretty bad, but still, you quite have some problem.
I'll tell you 2 words why the problem is so. Why the problem right now? This problem is much more wide. 2 words: Hindu nationalism. So there's the major driving factor is the politics of it. So there's this party right now in power in Central called BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, from 2014. And they're the ideological byproduct of a conservative movement called the RSS, Rashtriya Samvayak Sevak, something. I'm not saying it right, but it's there.
Okay.
And they have people in there who has praised Hitler and Mussolini.
Okay.
Have fascist ideas, and they believe in the Aryan race, how they're superior and everything. I simply see it as one of the biggest paramilitary organization in India, which is very dangerous organization in India. I think it should be listed as a terrorist group in India because they also have extremist ideas against the minorities in India. Because I stand for India, which is secular, because India is home to not just Hindus, it's also home to, as I said, to all other religions.
Of course.
So there is a scientific division of the RSS, supposedly scientific division. So it's called Vibha Vijnana Bharti. So there's this medical doctor called Harshvardhan, which Mirko said it. I'm just repeating his words. Actually, in India's Congress, he came and he said that, which is stated incorrectly, that Stephen Hawking had stated that the Vedas included theories which were superior to Einstein's theory of relativity and the famous equation equal to
and we ask you here to Liberi Tutti International, did the Vedas include such superior theories? No. Okay.
Well, that's a pity. I mean,
no,
in Liberi Tutti International or not, we're always at the frontier of the research. So no, the Vedas didn't include the general relativity.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, like this organization, this so-called, is actually also being funded by the government. That's the worst. I mean, just imagine taxpayers going into something so-called organization for what? And this organization, they push research for on medicines, or like how cow dung and cow urine will save us from coronavirus, and the list goes on. It's crazy.
And now I ask you, will Banga Chiva
urine? Even before you ask the question, I'm saying no.
No. Okay. Okay. Also, this is stated fair and clear. Cow urine will not save us from coronavirus.
Look, I mean, three of us here, we know how difficult it is to publish a paper, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And say it. You need to prove the calculations, you need to prove it again, and then there's a referee which will, without even seeing your paper, will reject it at the beginning. Then you have to send it again with your calculations and everything. That's how science is made. This is not science. You just say something out of the blue. This is how they appease to the public who are religious.
Mm-hmm.
To do the vote bank politics. I mean, it's common everywhere. I have also seen it in Israel. I don't know how it is in Italy or any other.
We talked about it in a few episodes ago, especially about flat earth theories, but I would not say they are that common and hopefully not funded by the states.
May I ask, is there a reason for the government to do that? I mean, why should you push such a strange and incorrect thing? I mean,
as I said, they want a Hindu nationalist country. So this whole strange ideology, it comes from they want to show that they're as much as Hindu as possible. So they want to appease the majority people of the country, which are Hindus, and that's not even the main thing. The main thing is to divert the people's mind from the real causes, from the real issues of the country: poverty, healthcare, social issues. They know. I don't think politicians are stupid. They're very clever, but they say stupid stuff just to divert the people's mind. That's how they have done it. That's how they will do it.
Okay, I see.
The Prime Minister of India, whom I have no respect for, he said we had Indian back before in time, we had plastic surgery because we have this god called Ganesha, who has a body of a human body and a head of an elephant. So he's like, because we had that character, it shows that we had plastic surgery before. I'm like, no, it's just a myth. It's a part of mythology. And he says a lot of absurd stuff. Like he said, like you can fight climate change by doing yoga.
Can you fight climate change doing yoga?
No. Okay. So yeah, so that's what's going on. But I would still say that, look, it's like students like me. I'm no one. I'm nothing. But there are students in India who are getting beaten up recently, and they're protesting day and night, even losing their lives also, to protest against this government, against their laws, against all this declaration of this sayings of strange scientific claims, and they're doing the real fight there, and they're still doing it. And I'm sure that we will win. We will be victorious, and there's a huge number of people who are supporting that. I'm not saying I have been like, I'm a very big critic of the government, but I'm not saying that the people of India are like that.
I would suggest to wrap up the episode with this message of hope by Shai.
It's very nice.
So I thank you very much, Shai, to be the first guest of Liberi Tutti International. You've been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been wonderful. And Davide, what do we say now?
I think we say that, well, first of all, let's follow us on YouTube and also on Spreaker and Spotify. I mean, whenever you want to look to see our faces or listen to our voices. I mean.
And put a like on our pages in Facebook and Instagram, Liberi Tutti International, and we will publish one episode per month, and we will travel the world with you in all the states with all their social problems. With the
Thank you, guys.
Guests all the time. Thank you, Davide.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shai.
Bye, guys.
Liberi Tutti.
Liberi Tutti.